your tool of choice as a TD. This panel is what all video commands are sent to. Now the video doesn't actually go through this. This is just a giant remote control. All the video actually goes through the equipment over there in the rack, but all of these buttons tell that equipment what to do as far as sending which camera where and when. So the first thing you want to do as a TD when you get in here is make sure that the system is ready to run properly. And one key thing is to make sure that these instructions right here are followed. The reset the inputs and the outputs for the video going through the switch. Now the setup tech should do that, but it doesn't hurt anything to do it again yourself. So you can do that. So the way you enter these commands are with the number pad and then the commit key. I'm guessing is what the COMM stands for, but essentially 118 commit, and then we'll see on the display it says initializing ins, and then 119 commit, and then we initialized the outputs. So that way we know that all of the interface cards on the switch have been reset. And sometimes this helps with alignment problems, sometimes this helps with synchronization problems with the video and things like that. So we just want to make sure that you do that. Whenever you sit down at the board, just dial it in, hit it, and do it. Okay, so that's kind of just the essential thing to do. Otherwise, it works fairly straightforward. So the board's broken up into several different sections. All of your inputs are on this bottom row here. There are 32 total inputs on our particular switch, and you'll notice that it only goes up to 16 with this number of buttons. You actually have to hold down the shift key to see the other 16. So by holding down shift...
And one is 17?
Correct.
Okay.
And then it just starts over. You'll notice that there's electronic displays labeling each of the inputs, and when you hold down shift, it changes those displays so you can see what they represent. We don't hardly ever use the second half of the inputs, but just in case you're ever called upon to use them, you know where to find them.
Not for the preview?
Well, it applies anywhere on the board, but yeah, I mean, because each row, if you will, this way is the same input.
You don't have some
system.
draw for this?
For the panel itself, no, I don't.
No.
Sorry.
Okay.
But the main inputs that you should be familiar with are black, which is the first input, which, not surprisingly, just generates a black signal. So if we ever need to send black to the auditorium, like we do in the case of Frontline, or if we want to specifically fade to black as part of like a special production or something like that, you know, we always have access to black on the board. The next one is color bars. We can invoke color bars to calibrate the monitors and things like that in the system. So there's a specific piece of hardware that generates color bars. It's its only job in life is to generate color bars. So we always have access to color bars to calibrate the equipment. The next set of inputs are non-camera sources. So we've got a DVD player. Number 4 is where we record the sermons to the hard drive. So some people call that the Do-Re-Mi system. That would be what number 4 is.
Okay, you recorded where? Over there? Did you push?
Correct. Number 4 pulls the video from this system right here.
Okay.
So we record the services onto this system Saturday night, so that if Sunday morning Lon can't teach for whatever reason, if they were going to play back from that system, that's what input number 4 is. The Nugget is input number 6. That's what all of the announcement videos come from. So anytime we're doing a video during the announcement slot,
We need to push it.
correct, that's where that would come from, is this input. Any of the computer graphics sources, any of the PCs, like slide sermon notes, lyric notes, announcements, anything would come off of these PCs. PC1 is the primary computer where all of the sermon notes and lyrics are driven from. PC2 is a backup. PC2 is also where the walk-in slides come from, like in between services. So if we ever, there's certain times where we're going to go to PC2. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and so that's where we would evoke that from. We have a couple more computer sources, and then we have all of our camera inputs at the end, cameras 1 through 6. Some people have trouble keeping track of them. What you can always remember is that the last digit here still represents the camera number here. So camera 6 is under 16, camera 5 is under 15, and so on. So you can always look at these last, the last digit of these labels. All of these non-camera sources you can see across the top of the monitor wall here to verify what you're looking for. So the DVD, the Nugget, all the computers, these are turned off. That's why they're color bars right now. So you can see that what lyrics are coming off of PC1 there. So if we did PC1, these two should match. So you can always verify what's coming in up there, just like we can with our 6 cameras here. So those are all the inputs. There's a whole bunch of them. Obviously, for the most part, we're using the 6 cameras and the Nugget, for 95% of the time. So some people will put tape on the board here to remind them that, in a pinch, oh yeah, when I reach here, this is where the Nugget is. And some people put one where the last camera is, just so while they have their hands here, they can feel it and know that they don't need to go past there to find a camera. When we only had 4 cameras, it was easy. You just put 4 fingers on here and you just pushed whatever one you needed to push. But now that we have 6, it's a little more confusing. So you just have to be able to keep track of which button you're pushing. With the lights off, they're illuminated underneath, so it makes it a little easier to read than when the regular lights were on. But it still doesn't help you touch sense where you are, like with a keyboard. There's no point of reference for where your hand is. So you got to remember, or every once in a while, at least look down and make sure you're pushing the right button. Okay. So those are all the inputs, and the inputs get sent somewhere. And how they get sent through the system is through a system of what's called the mix and effects buses. That's the next bullet in our outline here. This system has 3 mix and effects buses, or ME buses for short.
3?
Correct. The first one is ME0, and that's this section right here. That's where all these white buttons, anything that's white down here on this main panel is related to ME0. Alright? And then these set of yellow buttons, they all have the exact same labels for inputs. This is ME1. It is also ME2, but you can't directly access ME2. You actually have to press the ME2 select button. And by tapping that, you'll see that it's illuminated. And now you can change things on ME2. Typically, we don't need ME2. More often than not, ME1 is sufficient for the type of work that we're doing here. So you can just press these buttons without this being highlighted. And you'll see this display change if you bump it. You'll see now it says ME2 has been selected. And then when we turn it off, it says ME1 selected. So that allows you to, another reminder of where you are when you're using the board. But typically, ME0 and ME1 are the only 2 things we need to fill with. We'll explain what ME1 is good for in a moment. There are 2 types of keyers then that work with those ME buses. And keying, we typically have only done at Frontline. Very rarely would we ever do it at Big Church. We just stylistically don't do it that much. But keying allows us to put graphics on top of the video. So if we wanted to have scriptures on the bottom or the name of the person speaking, any of those sorts of things that you're used to seeing on TV. That's accomplished with key years. Can you send the PowerPoint on camera 5 or PC 2? Sorry, I'm thinking F5, but just there's a PowerPoint loaded. Just run it.
This is keys.
Correct. So the key years are invoked in 2 different spots. For ME0, there's the downstream keyer. That's what DSK stands for on here. So downstream keying will take graphics and put them on top of whatever's coming out of ME0. So that will allow us to do things like, let's just take our man Larry up there so the audience can see him. And then we want to put a graphic on top of him.
Cheryl's in the middle of doing something with PC2.
Double drags. Okay, so we'll take this example from PC1. So, and I'll just do it real quick and we'll go through it in a little bit here. But the what we can do then is we can blend those graphics over top of the video, and we may not. That may not be something we want. I should just turn the words off. But it may not be something that we want to do depending upon the type of graphic it is, because there's certain rules that make that overlay work with the type of system we have. So the way the graphics are built is very specific to make the keying work well. Otherwise, it just is a big mess and it doesn't look very pretty. So the ME1 and 2 have a fancier keying system, which is where we do the split screening, and if we ever needed to do picture-in-picture effects, we would do that. That's what the PIP stands for. Split screens are very common, and we'll definitely go through that. Picture-in-picture effects we won't go through. I've only had to do that once in 7 years doing this here, where we had somebody on the telephone talking to the pastor live, and we had a picture of the guy on the phone, and so we separated the two out, so we had a picture of the pastor talking and we had a picture of the guy on the phone, and then there was a graphical background behind them. And so all that's possible with this system.
We never want to do that when there's like a baptism or something?
We might do that when there's a baptism here. It's just something that we haven't really got into. And we can do that after class if you want to sit down and fiddle with it a little bit. But, but it's pretty complicated to remember all the steps to make it work. So we're not going to do it tonight necessarily as part of the training. But so those are the 2 types of keyers, the downstream keyer and then the ME keyers. So like I said before, anything in white is for ME0, anything in yellow is for ME1. So all these keyers are going to affect ME1 or ME2, depending upon whether we have the red button selected or not. So they're done from different places, and we'll go through some more of that in a little bit. Once we've figured out which inputs we want, and we've applied any keys that we want to apply, we need to send the video somewhere to get it out of the video switch in front of the audience. So that's what the outputs are for. ME0 is typically referred to as the program output, and we can even see that by the way they are labeled here. The bottom row is the preview row. This is what's next, and then program is what's currently visible by the audience. And that's reflected by the monitors we have here, where we've got the program monitor is what people can see, and then the preview monitor is what they can't see. That's what will be sent to the audience. So that will allow us to queue up shots and then send them to the audience in a timely manner. So that's what the program output is anything coming out of this second row here. Whatever's highlighted here is what the audience can see. Whatever's highlighted down here, the audience can't see. So we could press this 1,000,000 times and not bother anybody except the director, because they're the only person that can see it. It's right here. So we talked about how we can set up or where to access ME1 and ME2, but how all of these things get out of the system is through the auxiliary buses or aux buses. And that's what this whole section up here is related to. These 9 buttons here are the 9 physical outputs from the video switch. And then these here, you'll notice are labeled the exact same thing as the bottom here. And so with the addition of these 3 extra buttons on the end. And what we're saying is for each output, we have to select which source is being sent out. For the most part, it's going to be the program feed from ME0, because again it's a white button, so we know that it's coming off of ME0. If we wanted to send the output from ME1, we'd simply push the ME1 button, and then whatever was highlighted up here is now getting the resulting feed from there. So 9 times out of 10, it's going to be sent to program. You always want to push the top row first, and then the bottom row, because the bottom row will change whatever's highlighted up here. So you want to, if we want to change what's going to the internet campus, we'd push the 8th button here, aux 8, and then we'd pick, what we want to send out to the internet, as opposed to going, oh yeah, I need to send camera 6 to the internet. That'd be the wrong order, because if we were on the cable TV and we said camera 6 internet, we just sent camera 6 to the cable TV, not where we wanted to send it. So you always want to push the top row first, and then the bottom row. What he's getting at is there's a separate routing system besides this system. That's what this panel does, is this panel controls what video source is being sent to the projectors themselves. And so so before, when we only saw the lyrics, that was because this system said it's only going to send whatever's coming out of PC1 to all the screens. But under normal conditions, that would be totally fine in between services if there was a walk-in loop or something like that. But once the service starts, we have that mix and match of graphics and IMAG, and so sometimes people will say, hey, we're not on the screens, or whatever. That's because this system is not set properly, or it didn't behave properly. We normally don't have to worry about this. The person who's running the graphics at front of house deals with it. So we don't normally get involved unless there's a problem, or somebody wants to know if something's possible, and you can always defer them to whoever's running the graphics at front of house if you're not comfortable with it. Alright, so how do you transition between the elements and get them onto the screen? So cuts is the most basic and most common thing used in broadcast television, and it's also what we use primarily during the sermon. Are take camera 6, take camera 5, cut camera 3. Take and cut is means the same thing. And in our case, even when the director says cut or says take, the button is labeled cut. So it's not, cut is the more appropriate phrase for the type of transition that we're doing. So when they say take, you're actually pushing that button. So the way that works is right now the audience can see camera 5 and say we want to go to camera 6. So the director would say ready camera 6, at which point you would push the camera 6 button on the bottom row. So ready camera 6, and then you would say cut camera 6. And you'll notice that the lights have swapped now. So what was up here moved to the preview row, and what was lit down here has now moved up. So by pushing cut, it's an instantaneous swapping of what's on the program row with what's on the preview row. If it's a really fast music or something like that, you can do it directly by just pushing this button, and that will automatically change what the audience sees.
For the director.
It's a little less helpful for the director. You'd have to work that out in rehearsal if that would be an okay approach, because sometimes the director is staring at this monitor, and when they say ready camera 5, they're waiting for that monitor to change before they say dissolve or fade. And if you never push it on the bottom row and you just say take 5, I'd have to trust that you got your finger on the right button, that you're going to do the right thing. And sometimes that works. It just depends on the moment. If there's not enough time to do this and then back and then that and that, it's perfectly acceptable to do that, but it's just something that you and the director have to work out so that they're comfortable with you just going directly to that middle row. Fades. So where cut is an instantaneous transition, and we learned how we can do the cut button, or we can do a direct selection off this top row here. A fade is a smooth, gentle transition from one shot to another shot. And we achieve that with the T-bar, which is the most common method, which is simply just moving this bar up or down. It works in both directions, and we can see again that the lights will flip-flop between the bottom row and the top row, but it's not an instantaneous change now. It takes a couple. However quickly we move this bar is how long that transition takes. So we can be fast, or we can be really slow. Of doing a fade, so you can push this button and it will execute a fade, but the speed of that transition is based on how many, this number right here, what's programmed into the board. So see, like it says 10 right now. Yeah, each second of video consists of 30 individual pictures. So 30 frames of video per second, so 30 frames per second. And what this says is it'll do a transition in 10 frames, so a third of a second for this transition time. So if we watch the program screen and we push the auto button,
That's pretty cool.
it'll always happen within 10 frames, which is great for fast-paced stuff, but not so great for slower music or other moments that we want to create. So if you're using the auto button, you'd have to change the speed of that transition. To change this rate, you would have to manually dial in a number, and then you'll notice each window on the board has a label. This one is labeled take rate, and so we'll see that there's a matching button up here labeled take rate. So what we would dial in, say we wanted a full second, which is 30 frames of video per second, so 30, and then we push the take rate button. And you'll actually see on the display that it says M rate, which is a mismatch in naming, but 1 second. So now our display says 30, and now if we watch the screen when I push the button, it'll take a full second. Talk about doing a split screen. So you can go halfway with your T-bar. This is called a half flap. I don't know why. Now, I don't like this method because the outgoing video is reducing in brightness and the incoming video is increasing in brightness by doing this. And so you're actually seeing both images at half brightness by stopping halfway. So there's a better way to do it than this. This is very simple, but it's not the preferred method. What we want to do is take one subject on one side with camera 5, and then we've got a guitar player on camera 6, and so we want to combine these two together in the same image. Now typically I wouldn't do the framing this way, but that's for another time. We just want to know how to combine the two. That's what we're going to use ME1 for, is we're going to take two separate signals and put them on the same, two separate cameras and put them together. So we have an A and a B row. They're no longer called program and preview because we can use this for different things. Right? So you'll see A and B, but it's the same idea. You've got two inputs that you can work with at any given time. So we're working with camera 5 and camera 6. So 5 is on A, 6 is on B. We can't really see what we're doing yet because we don't have a way to preview ME1 separately from ME0. But what we can do is we can select ME1 from our preview row here. So right next to camera 6, we can press ME1. And now whatever's coming out of ME1, we'll be able to see on the preview monitor. So what we want to do now is we want to set up that split screen. So we want to use our mix wipe area to set up our split screen. Now we want to make sure that the way the split screen occurs is the right shape. there's like 30 some odd different types of wipes that can be used to go from one shot to another shot. In particular, we like number 17. So number 17, you'll see the wipe pattern box. You know, ME0 never changes. Typically, it's just on 1. ME number 1 is set to 17. Now, it could be that somebody was playing around and they had it on 25, for example, which would yield what? Let's see. That's just a crossfade, or wait, yeah, that changed the shape. Actually, that one's kind of like a windshield wiper thing, where it's coming from one corner and moving across. You know, we could. There's all sorts of shapes. Some of them kind of silly looking, and you know, things we wouldn't want to do. So we want to make sure that it's set to the right one. So all we have to do is press 17, and then press the wipe select button. Unfortunately, they're, for this particular layout of the cameras, doesn't really work well for us. So what we want to do is use these knobs to adjust the shape and position of that wipe. So the first one's labeled border. So if we turn down border, the green goes away. So first thing we want to do, we want to make sure the color's taken out of it. And then we want to adjust the angle and the softness, because right now it's a pretty big blur, and maybe we don't want it that blurry. Maybe we want it to be a nice hard edge. And then you can adjust the angle with the third dial for symmetry, which allows us to rotate that wipe pattern. So then I can say, alright, then I can fine tune its position just based on where that T-bar is sitting, and then I can bring in softness again to make the edge a little less dramatic between the two shots. You don't typically want to go from a similarly matched shot. You know, like we've got a head to toe here, and we've got a medium shot there, and you don't want to go to like another medium shot or another head to toe per se, because then it just makes for a real busy transition. So you want to go to something completely different. Your second choice is to go to remove a portion of the split screen by just picking the one you want to keep. So we're using 5 and 6, and so all we have to do is pick 5, for example, and it will appear as if we just faded out half the shot by turning off that other side. Well, you know, these white buttons can change the wipe down here. Normally when we're doing a fade, we're on a mix. If we wanted to do a wipe, you know, we could just do a wipe. You know, then you've got the George Lucas special, you know, where it's
You never do that, right?
No, because they look funny. They're gimmicks, you know. They're not, you know, normally something you would do. So that's why it stays on mix. You know, so then your fades are nice fades. Wipes create a shape in between the incoming and the outgoing camera source. The common mistakes that you will make are, for example, say we're using the auto button for fades, and you, for whatever reason, have a glitch in your hand and you double tap it.
Oh, wow.
It gets hung halfway between the two shots. So if you double click the button, that's what's going to happen. How do you fix it? You just push the button again.
Is that a bug or is that a feature?
That's a feature.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is, you will absolutely do that at least once in your lifetime. The other thing,
like, okay.
the more common thing is just pushing the wrong source and not realizing it and going, because that typically happens when you're looking up and you're just pushing a button, and you know you've got 2 shots of the guitarist and they say camera 6 and you push 5 for whatever reason and you put 5 up, you know. So that's pretty common. That's where the detail and paying attention comes into play. Make sure you push the right button. Make sure it matches with what the director's calling for. For example, you go from one perfectly usable shot to another one, but you're out of sync with the director. Like like they have the habit of doing this every time they want to transition, and they do this and they don't say anything because they changed their minds.
Oh.
And so you went ahead and went, oh, okay.
That's happened,
Camera 3's up, you know. So you just do it. You don't go, oh no, let me go back, you know, because then it looks like a mistake to everybody. So if you make a mistake, you just do it. You're all in at that point.